You're listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast, discussing all aspects of precision and long-range rifle shooting. This episode is brought to you by Impact Dynamics, advanced training for the precision shooter. And now, over to your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to the Precision Shooting Podcast. My name is Rusty, and joining me in this interview is Wonder Woman of the PRS series, Regina Milkovich. How are you?
Good. That makes me laugh every time somebody calls me Wonder Woman.
I think it might be self-inflicted, isn't it?
It definitely is.
Absolutely. I'm sure we'll get to your amazing stock in time. How have you been? You've been shooting a lot this year?
I have. I've already shot four two-day matches here, and just about every club match I can get into with a whole slew coming up this season. So if I'm not on the range, I'll be in the reloading room, I think.
Yeah, fancy that. You've got that side of things to worry about. You've just come back from Lone Survivor.
Yes. Yep. With bipolar weather that I guess is pretty consistent with Texas. I've heard many times that you stay in Texas for a day, you'll see all four seasons. We had that on Saturday. It had winds that were probably up to about 20 mile an hour and a drizzle. And the next day, no wind at all. We were holding center on targets that were 950 yards away. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, right. Good match?
Yes. Yeah, it was very balanced. They had four actual long-range stages. Everything else is barricades and quite a bit of prone. So I thought it was pretty well balanced. Jake Libbert won it with like 92% of the available points or something. So
wow. Yeah, that's good.
Of course, he's not human, so...
So he's got his own category.
Right, exactly.
And I heard you beat Paul Reed.
Mm-hmm.
I like how you just take that as, yeah, that's pretty standard.
No, it's very rare that I beat Paul.
So overall, Lone Survivor was a good match.
Yes, it was. I got to hang out with my friend Steph and my friend Ryan, and there's this kid, Micah, that works for David Tubb, who we roped into shooting with us on Sunday. Saturday, I spent the whole day with the guys from WeBad and Geoballistics. So there's a lot of good networking while shooting. So.
Well, we spoke about this with Mick Stubbins as well, but that's really the reason you do it, isn't it? It's all good fun. It's the people you hang out with.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're not having fun, there's no point in being there.
No. So tell me, Regina, about your first match. I'm curious to know. How did that go?
My first match was actually a club match that I got tricked into shooting. I was really interested in the sport because I'd helped RO, which seems to be a good way to rope ladies into shooting this sport. Mm-hmm. Tim put me behind a spotting scope, and I thought, man, that's so cool. They're hitting so far away. I want to do that. So it took another 8 or 9 months or so to find a used left-hand 223. So he took me to the range and taught me how to run the gun and how to fix a couple of malfunctions and sort of run a barricade, just real basic stuff, about 4 hours. And then told me I was shooting a match the next day, which is our local match, which I think we maybe had 12 people that would show up back then. And I think I came in 4th or 5th. Okay. Tim just walked by and said 4th. He corrects me every time. So the next month, everybody showed up again, and half the guys saw me, set their stuff down, and said, "Now we'll just help out. We don't want to get beat by a girl." So, so I was hooked then. I was like, "Really? I can make like grown men get upset? Done. I totally want to. I want to be really good at it." Yeah.
And what about your first peer, like the 2-day event? What was your first one there?
My first 2-day event was NorCal in 2010. At the time, they weren't allowing 223s. So you had to pretty much have a 6mm and up, and all I had was a 223. So we were building a 243 for me at the time. But I took Tim's 308 that was right-handed and finished 58th out of 59. So the biggest lesson from that match was never shoot a wrong-handed rifle. So unless I have to shoot a right-handed rifle, I'm always going to shoot a lefty because about the only thing right on me are my politics. I'm left-handed, left eye, everything's lefty except for left-handed scissors. Those are weird. Those just don't make sense.
I can't say I've delved into the world of left-handed scissors, so I'm going to take that on your word entirely.
It came up as a topic over dinner over the weekend, and they kept telling me they were going to give me left-handed scissors. I'm like, don't torture me like that. I can't cut anything with those. So
Oh, good. And so how did you feel after that first match? Were you still pretty sort of pumped, or?
I was really hooked. I wanted a rifle that fit me, though, not one that fit Tim. So we had a stock built for me, and I think we just put a new barrel on my old Remington. And I shot that barrel out in like 1,300 rounds because I was running a 243 at the time. But I was hooked. So I shot, I think, 2 matches that year, 3 matches the next year, 3 matches in 2012. Then the sport sort of exploded when the PRS started up in 2012. We had matches all over the place. So I don't think I've shot less than 5 2-day matches since then. I might have only shot 3, no, maybe 4. I can't even keep track anymore.
There's that many, it's hard to keep count of. That's kind of a good thing.
Between the PRS and the NRL, there's almost 60 matches, I think.
Wow.
There's a lot.
We're hoping we can have 4.
Right?
for the country, but I don't think we'll ever get to 60, but if we can get to 4, that'd be great.
The way the sport is growing, to me, I've noticed it more on a local level. Our club that used to have 12 people show up, the first couple of years, maybe get 20 people. We took a year off last year because we lost access to our range. And at the time we were getting 30 to 35 people. And we're like, holy cow, we're getting really big out here because we're so spread out. We moved to this new range in November of last year, and our first match we had 60 people. Wow. And now we're routinely getting 60 people. Our club match is this Saturday, and we have 66 people signed up, and I think 5 or 6 on the wait list. So we've never had to actually waitlist people. And the only reason we're doing that is because half of our club's, so to speak, pros are either shooting the Rocky Mountain Mayhem, or they're going to MPA, or they're shooting the NRL match that's the same weekend. So so we have a lot of people that would normally be running the match that won't be in town.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So we should be able to be getting 80 or 90 people at a club match, which that's bigger than the first 2-day match that we held, which was 60 people. And we had trouble. I don't actually think we really had trouble filling it, but 60 people for a 2-day match used to be a really big deal. And now clubs around the States are getting them regularly for a weekend.
It's amazing. And we're just starting to see some club movement. There's been a couple of guys doing stuff for a little while now, but there's more and more clubs sort of jumping up over here and starting to see those attendance numbers rise, which is really exciting. So hopefully we see a similar effect.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I think the real growth is anyway. That's where you learn what gear actually works and what doesn't, and how to navigate a barricade stage under a short time frame. Probably the worst place to try out a new piece of gear is at a big 2-day match. Not that stops anybody from doing that, but a better place is practice by yourself and then practice at a club match, which we kind of think of as organized practice. Well, I mean, you got a timer, you got a time limit. You don't always know what the stage is or what the targets are going to be. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of the same things that would happen in a 2-day match, but less pressure. You can try out your new bag that you picked up, or try a tripod for the first time. That would be a good place to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of equipment, let's ask you about that. We mentioned the Wonder Woman stock previously. You still running that?
I have taken that out of rotation for right now. I'm sending it back to my gunsmith, Mark Soule, to have him rebed it for an impact action.
Okay. And
he's putting a barrel on that impact right now anyway, so figured he'd have him just set that whole thing up so I can start shooting it again.
Sure, yeah.
And in the meantime, I'm running a KMW, so they're both Macmillan stocks anyway. The A35 that has a Wonder Woman logo on it, and the KMWs are a Macmillan body that Terry Cross does a bunch of stuff to the inside of. So it makes it his own, I guess.
Very nice. Who are you shooting for this year?
Timney Triggers is my primary sponsor this year. I've shot their triggers since 2011 or so, and I run the Calvin Elites, the single stage flat triggers.
Yeah, that's my favorite as well.
Tim likes the 2 stages, and I just can't get comfortable behind him. He says it's because I didn't grow up shooting 3-gun or ARs very much at all, so the 2-stage seems a little foreign to me. I'd rather have the single stage with that crisp break on it.
Yeah.
They've got a couple of new triggers coming out soon, like one that has adjustable shoes, the 4 different adjustable shoes that you can take on or off depending on what you want.
Okay. Yeah, right. No, I'm with you. I don't think Tim's got his head in the right spot about that.
Yeah.
Single stage all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, I didn't grow up shooting ARs or 3-gun either.
Yeah, I guess there's some pistols also have 2-stage triggers, but I just can't get comfortable with it. I prefer the single stage still. And I'm a stickler for routine, and I don't like change. So I stick with the same one.
Stay with it if it's working. Cool. What else makes up your gear? You mentioned impact action.
I did buy an impact at the end of last year. Right now I'm running my Defiances. Again, I've got 2 of those. And I have a Surgeon that my 223 is on. And that's what I actually practice the most on is the 223. Prime ammo picked me up this year, so I've been using their 223 and 9mm ammo for practice. I went back to Mark Sule at Spartan Precision, so he's building my guns again. I was really happy to go back to him, and we've been great friends for a long time anyway, so he builds me good guns.
Yeah, fantastic. Is he local to you?
No, he's in California.
Okay.
He's probably a 10-hour drive or so, but I probably talk to him at least once every couple of weeks or so. I'm still shooting for Vortex, so still got razors on everything.
Yep.
And Hawkhill barrels, I've been shooting those barrels for a while. I'm going through probably 4 or 5 a year now at this rate. Running the 115 DTACs that I get from David Tubb, and Butch's Reloading has been helping me out with Unicorn Tears, the Hodgdon 4350 powder, so I can reload that. Nobody can ever find any, so I just put unicorn stickers on all of my jars now when I get them. Like, these are mine.
No one else. Yeah.
Yeah, Tim started using some of the IMR line and stuff, so I could keep the 4350 to myself.
Just for yourself.
Yep.
That's the way. Nice.
See, Weebad, all of their bags. I really have only been running 2 bags so far this season: the mini fortune cookie and the pump pillow. The mini fortune cookie, I found more uses for that bag than like the 5 or 6 that I was carrying around with me before. And
yeah, right.
The pump pillow I have is the modular one. So if I need it to be as small as one of like the tack pads or something, or one of the smaller bags, I just take out some of the filler bags and then it's fine. So
okay.
I can unzip it and take those little bags out.
And it works well.
Yeah.
That mini fortune cookie, I've got one of the fortune cookies. What's the size difference between the two? They're sort of half the size?
It is about half the size. The full-size one is, I think, 5.7 pounds, and the small one, I think, is about 3 pounds.
And it still works really well on barricades?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Interesting. But it'd be like probably a good size as a rear bag, wouldn't it?
I think it's the perfect size for a rear bag. I know when they said that when they first designed the fortune cookie, they were looking at it as something to use as a heavy rear bag. And for me, with the KMW anyway, and in some respects for the A35 as well, it's almost too big, the full-size one. It's great on larger props and stuff, but I think the mini it's lighter weight, so it's easier to move around, and it gives me the exact same stability on all those props. Plus, I can use it as a rear bag for everything too, so it's less stuff for me to travel with.
Yeah, anything to get the weight down on those barricade-style bags would be wonderful.
Yeah, I understand why they need it. I mean, they need it to make you stable.
Oh, yeah.
But good grief, like, it feels like you're working out or something, like being like Ryan Castle at the gym with all your bags and stuff.
I mean, we're not asking for miracles. We just want 2 things that are polar opposites to, really stable and super lightweight. So if Weebad and those guys could just get onto that sort of gear, that'd be great.
They can find one that's heavy when you need it to be heavy and like air when you're not using it. That would be even better.
Yeah, so if they could just sort of break physics for us, that would be brilliant. I don't know why they hadn't thought of this earlier. We were onto something here.
I would appreciate it if they would do that. Maybe I'll ask them next time I see them.
Yeah,
they'll probably laugh at me.
Just send them this podcast, and they'll get all the ideas they need. We'll help them out.
Yep.
Brilliant.
The other thing I've noticed that's been making a kind of a big showing the last couple of years have been tripods, mainly Really Right Stuff, their store line. And I got real lucky last year and tricked them into sponsoring me. So I love that thing. Morgan Lamprecht, one of the guys in South Texas, had said, I can shoot tighter groups off of this standing than I can prone. And I thought, you are so full of it until I did it. And he was right. And then I had to buy one.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and I did buy my first one, and then they helped me out with the next one, which Tim thought meant he was going to get one. And I told him, no, that means I have 2 tripods and you have 4 Manfrottos. And now he's got his own. So he won one on a prize table. So he's happy again.
Brilliant. I like that Tim assumes that if you get sponsored, that sort of means he does as well.
Yeah. He's like, I get your old stuff then, right? No, not always.
So he's sponsored, but he sponsored a sponsor ago. So whoever your previous sponsor was. That's not the worst deal.
We are married, and it's like one of those community property states. So I guess technically that means he gets what's mine is his and what's his is mine. And now that it's recorded, he can prove it later on that I did say that. So
we could edit it out if required. Let me know if you ever need it. We'll remove that. We're here to cover you.
Yeah. He's in the other room, so he heard it. It happened.
Oh, good. Oh, and is there any equipment that you've got your eye on that you're either thinking for yourself or that you might recommend that maybe a more budget line for those sort of getting into it?
You know, we've been looking at some of the lower budget rifles, mainly for some of the new shooters in our club. And like the amateur that I shot with at the Pro-Am, her name is Sarah. She was running a Ruger precision rifle. I've never seen a kid run a bolt that fast outside of like some of the Marines, but they're running like a super fast bolt in a Surgeon, and she was doing it in a Ruger. So apparently you can break those things in. They're really accurate too. Don't cost a whole lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of people buying those as practice ones, including Paul Reed. He's got one.
He said he won a match with it.
He did. He won one of their club matches. He loaned his. I think he was running a Surgeon at the time. Loaned that out to a guy who didn't have whose rifle broke or whatever, and he ran the Ruger and won. Because that says a lot more about talent than it does about gear, right there.
Absolute determination, mate.
Maybe that too.
So the Ruger still is a really sort of popular one over there.
Yeah, I would say so. I think most of the other stuff that people are using that you can get relatively inexpensive would be, well, like what we were talking about with the fortune cookie and some of the bags. I don't think that you need to have 18 bags looking like a gypsy wandering around. If you have 1 or 2 good ones and you learn how to use them, or a sling and learn how to use a sling, then you have every bit of stability that the people that are building up like pillow forts before they shoot. You're faster.
There is nothing wrong with my pillow fort, Regina. It's good fun, but yeah, you're right. You lose a lot of time. You don't even get a shot off sometimes.
No, trying to get the most stable, and sometimes you have to accept okay stable to get a shot off rather than perfectly stable.
Yeah, well and truly. What do you think has made the biggest improvement in your shooting? Is there any particular skills that you worked on that you reckon has changed how you shoot significantly? Taking
a class to actually learn some of those fundamentals. I think there's a lot that you can learn when you go and shoot a club match, especially if you're horribly unprepared and you don't know what to expect. Then you're going to learn a ton. Unfortunately, some of the stuff that you learn when you're going to a club match or shooting on your own is the incorrect way to get behind a gun, where then you're comfortable behind your rifle rather than effective behind your rifle. So I think taking a class, even if it's just the club guys, putting on a class where it's a little bit more organized and trying to figure out how to shoot kneeling or seated or shoot a barricade with no direction, I think that would help people be much more successful if they did that in the beginning, in the first 6 months, rather than winging it for 2 years and then they go take a class and realize how much stuff they have to relearn. It's really important to take the time to, a lot of guys sort of shoot the match and they have to do it all under pressure, but actually be able to take the time with someone helping along. Yep. I know a lot of the matches around here, the 2-day matches and stuff, have started having like an actual range day that Friday where you could go try out all the props and shoot if you want, don't if you don't want to, after you get your gun zeroed. There's a lot to be said for dry firing off of the props that are available. You don't need to spend any ammo shooting at something that's inside 400 or 500 yards, especially if you know that you're shooting a caliber that you know the wind on. Save that stuff for checking your dope out at long distances, but shooting off of a lattice or some sort of weird barricade or any of that, the tank traps, random props, whatever, you could dry fire off of that on the smallest target that you can find that's at the greatest distance you're comfortable with. Dry fire on that. If you can stay stable on a tiny target, then you're going to be fine on a 10-inch circle at 400 yards.
What do you do on those Fridays?
I check my zero.
Yep.
So that's about 10 rounds or so, if that. If they have some far targets, I'll probably spend about 20 rounds checking my dope on those. I don't like to shoot too much because if I find an issue or I overthink something, then it ends up making its way into Saturday.
Yeah.
So really it's just confirming dope and then trying to find a position that I can build quickly on any of the props that we're able to actually play on. Because not knowing what we're going to be doing in a match, because they don't give you the match book till afterwards, it's kind of like a free-for-all. You might as well try everything to make sure that you're going to be stable on everything. Do you need 1 bag or 2 bags? Can you do that with a sling? Would not using a sling be faster? Is it possible to use a tripod on something? Using the gear that you actually have with you. And then watching other people too, because sometimes you can pick something up from someone. Although I think a lot of the time I find new shooters then, and I end up trying to tweak what they're doing. So no, don't do that. Do it this way.
So you don't spend a huge amount of time on that Friday sort of shooting. You just get in, do what you need to do, and then relax, or
and then socialize. Yeah.
Yeah.
I spend a lot more time socializing when I should probably be dry firing, but
we do this for fun though.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some who don't even shoot at all and just spend the entire day socializing.
Some people like Matt Brousseau show up at like 30 minutes before the range day's over, checks the zero, and he's done. He's good to go, and then he goes and wins the match. So there's something to be said with not overthinking stuff too.
But isn't he in that category of not human?
He is. Yeah.
I'm talking about different things there.
Yep. Him and Jake Vibert, those 2 guys. Yeah. And Dave Preston's up there with them too. I don't know what kind of cereal they have in the morning.
Or what planet they come from.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to watch people like that shoot. And when you actually, like during the match, what do you do? Because, if you're in a squad of 10, you've got a bit of time to be, obviously prepping for your particular turn. What do you do in the other times?
Watching, usually. I might watch the shooter. Normally what I'm doing is trying to watch the targets, though. See if I can see what's going on downrange. I'm looking for mirage or any environmentals. I can see them, a pair of binos. And then the rest of the time, I'm cracking jokes with my friends on the squad. I'm going to be totally honest. I think probably maybe 50% of the time is serious, and the rest of the time is cutting up. So,
good. Well, that's a good balance, though.
Yeah. Well, because again, if you're not having fun, why are you there? So
absolutely. Well, you seem like a pretty positive person from your posts on social media and a little bit of time that we spent with you last year. You always seem pretty positive and pretty motivated about what you're doing. How do you keep that going, and particularly during the course of a match, especially when something doesn't go right? Have you got any sort of ways you go about doing that?
I actually have a funny story about this.
Right.
I was talking to a friend of mine, and girls aren't super prevalent in this sport yet. There's more of us now than there were in the beginning, but there's still not a whole lot of us. And I know guys, when they bomb a stage and they get a little upset, they might throw something or, say something loudly that they probably shouldn't have. And people notice it, but then they blow it off. They're like, oh, it's just being a guy. But girls, because it's not socially acceptable for us to punch things or throw stuff, we might get, say, maybe possibly a little choked up. So I don't ever want anybody to ever see me get upset on a stage. So I'll walk away and go take a breather. Usually it takes a couple minutes, and then I'll come back and I'll be fine. But there have been a couple times at matches that I got so upset that I was at the point of tears. So I came up with this system.
Right.
I go the porta-john because there is no way you can feel bad for yourself or sorry for yourself or cry or anything in a porta-john for longer than 30 seconds. So you have to shape up, get back out there, and go shoot. So move on to the next stage.
Right.
It's like a self-imposed reality check.
Well, we've got our first PRS for the year coming up shortly, and I think I'm going to keep an eye on that and see how many people take that advice and shoot, not do so well, and then just wander off for 2 minutes. Come on back.
Yep, I'm coming out of the porta john. I was like, nope, I'm fine.
Yep,
I'm fine. I'm good.
it's fine. All good.
That was actually a conversation I had with somebody over the weekend, but mostly because we were making jokes and stuff about porta johns. But nobody needs to see somebody cry at a match. It's not pretty, or throw stuff, or pass out an RO. So it's better just to remember your place and that it's just a rifle match. Nobody's shooting back. It's supposed to be fun.
Yep.
You actually paid to be there. So figure out what you did, whether it was your dope or your position, or, was it you or was it the environment? If it's the environment and you guessed it wrong, your wind guesstimate was wrong, all right, well, move on. If it was you and your position, identify what you did, congratulate yourself for the hits that you did get, or the fact that you got off 50% of your rounds, or whatever it was, that some part of it that you did well. Congratulate yourself for that, and remember that part. Move on to the next stage.
Yeah. So do you do that after each stage, a little sort of checklist, and you go through, and then you leave it all there and move on?
Yep. And I take notes. So they're not real detailed anymore, but like I'll write down my dope, and if something was low on a target, I'll write down that my dope was low there, or it was high there, just in case we shoot a similar stage the next day, or if I go back to that match a year later, then I have more information on that range because I keep all my matchbooks. So
yeah, okay. So you do that in the matchbooks over the course of the day, and then you've got a record.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We've got like a milk crate full of matchbooks from the last 8 years. So, and I'm not even kidding about that either. I could take a picture and prove it. We have all these old matchbooks. So before a match comes up, I might pull out the last 2 or 3 years and look through their course fire and see guess what the most likely stages are that they'll put in, like something they haven't put in 5 years, or something they put in every year, and practice for that going up, leading into the match.
Does Tim happen to be reloading a Dylan in the background?
He is. He's got a Charge Master going in the other room.
Because
you can hear it, huh?
Is that the powder checker that I'm hearing?
Yes.
Right. I thought I knew the noise.
He's got a over 200 load or rounds to load tonight. So because he changed his mind on what rifle he was taking this weekend.
So it's
I only have
self-inflicted.
150 to go. Yes. Yeah. He's going to take his 223, but it's supposed to rain, and he's worried about it being overpressure, so he's going to take his 6 Creedmoor instead.
Okay.
I have 150 rounds to go. So yes.
we won't hold you up for too much longer.
Fresh ammo is the best ammo, so might as well wait till the last minute.
I always went with free ammo is the best ammo, but that's fresh is good as well.
Well, I don't know that I've ever seen like a born on date on that, so that could be fresh.
Yeah, true.
You never know.
True.
Fresh to you.
Fresh to me. With the matchbook review, keeping your notes, do you ever look at that matchbook at the end of the shoot as well, like a little bit of a debrief?
A little bit. I kind of accidentally did that last weekend when I was telling Tim, like, I think I shot pretty good today. Really, I mean, I hit most of the stuff I was aiming at. And I went through it and I went, except for these 3 out of 12 stages that I didn't do very good on. All the other ones I did great though. So yeah, that might be a little bit of a reality check there, but I think it's good to keep notes anyway and identify what you did well. So, because there's a much better chance of you repeating something if you focus on what you did right rather than focusing on what you did wrong. So if you shoot a skill stage that you know is going to be in every single match and you focus on the one miss you had, then the next time you shoot that same skill stage, the likelihood of you missing that same shot again is much greater than if you said, man, I got all these 7 shots. They were all spot on, and this is what I did and why I was successful at those. Yeah. Well, then the next time you'll probably clean it. It's all that mental stuff.
Oh, isn't it? Yeah. If this was going to be, I asked this question previously of others, but if it was day 1 of my shooting career and you were going to coach me for the first day, what would you teach me first?
Oh, you poor thing. I would make you dry fire so much. The guy that I trained last time, that's pretty much all we did. Like the first 4 hours we went to the range was body position and shooting groups and dry firing a little bit before we started moving on to shooting targets at distance. And then the second time we went out, we started working on barricades, but supported positions.
So the dry firing is really about sort of securing the fundamentals in, or is it?
Yes. Well, I mean, anything, you do it a whole bunch of times, you do it repetitively, but you do it correctly. So you have good focus practice, then you're more likely to do that out of habit than in the future. So I know that when I first learned how to get behind a gun properly, that took me 6 months or so before it felt comfortable. That whole 6 months leading up to that was horribly uncomfortable. Somebody much smarter than me told me that my rifle doesn't care if I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
It's a tool and use it as such. So now I can tell if I have a slight bend in my hip or if I'm leaning a foot out the wrong way. I know if I'm not comfortable, my shot's not going to go where I want it to go. And then people dry fire too quickly. It's not a race to get the bullet forward. Take your time when you're dry firing. I mean, nobody's got you on a timer then. So to me, that's the time to make sure you have a good shot and that your natural point of aim is actually on the target and your crosshairs are where you want them to be, rather than just racing to run that bolt and click the trigger and move on to the next one. So they treat it like it's a speed drill rather than learning how to be behind your gun.
Slowing it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and getting it perfect.
Yep. So that then when you are on the clock, you know what it feels like. You could go from standing port arms to dropping down behind your gun, but you're gonna center up your shot because your body feels right.
Yep.
You're used to what it feels like to be correctly behind your gun.
Is there a skill that you're currently working on?
I'm always working on positional because I hate it so much. Seated, I'm pretty good. Kneeling and standing offhand, not so much.
No.
I'm still working on those. So I just got a 22 to start working on that more because that's how much I hate it. So
you hate it so much that you bought a gun for it.
Yes, just to work on it to improve.
And so how do you do that? You go through drills?
Yeah, I don't know that's actually really organized, but I'll load up a couple mags and work on one position. And we've got these Voodoo Gunworks rifles, so now we can actually dry fire with the 22. And so dry fire quite a few times first before I use any live rounds. And then I'll just work on that for a while. It's usually not more than about 30 minutes, though, if it's live fire. And dry fire at night and work on that for 5 to 10 minutes a couple times a week. So just so I don't end up building up bad habits. I don't want to go longer than that on a dry fire at night in the house. But mostly because I don't want to build up any bad habits. You're tired at the end of the day, and it's easy to get lazy.
And they're not fun positions to shoot from anyway at the beginning to start with.
No, they suck for a reason. They totally suck. They're awful. But they keep putting them in matches, so I have to keep practicing them.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's crazy.
I even throw them in matches because I suck at them.
You put together a few matches. That's for the club sort of stuff.
Yeah, and we've got a big 2-day PRS match coming up in November also that Matt Levine and I are the co-match directors for.
Cool.
Tim's been the match director in the past couple of years, and he said this year, I don't want to do it. I want to run a stage and be mean to shooters. So we said, all right, we'll let you do that. So he won't be mean. I'm just kidding about that part. But
he will be. I'm sure
he does just want to run. He just wants to run a stage. And so,
like, what type of stages do you like putting in matches or to shoot yourself?
I personally like barricade stages. And to me, I use that term loosely because a tank trap, a fence rail, a patio chair, they're all barricades to me.
Sure.
I think anything that's a supported position, I treat like a barricade. And I like those because I think that they test your planning as well as your fundamentals. So, because I know I'm not the only one who's gone up to a barricade with too much crap, failed miserably. Like you end up just throwing bags everywhere. It looks like a yard sale, and you still are not in a solid position. So I like them from varying heights.
So to work on all that stuff.
So the barricade stages are the popular ones or the favorite ones for you?
For me, yeah. I really don't like the ones where I have to run, but my club does. So we have a lot of obstacle courses that we like to put into matches. So if anybody's listening that is planning on shooting our match in Arizona in November, then they might want to work on their cardio because there'll probably be a couple obstacle courses in there. So
Okay.
we like those.
Start working out, hey?
Yeah, I mean, they're not far. They're yards, not maybe feet, not even yards that they have to move. But
yeah.
But it is under time pressure. So
yeah, it changes it, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. I remember hearing a podcast a number of years ago, Regina, with I think it was Kirk from Precision Rifle Media. He was speaking to you about when you practice, you actually often will practice with a 308 rather than one of the smaller cartridges. Is that something you still do?
I do. I've got a Defiance 308 that, well, when I didn't have back-to-back matches so frequently, 2 weeks going into a match, I would run my 308. So I'd get used to controlling the recoil because then I'd go shoot my 6 and there is no recoil at that point. Whatever I thought I had, like, man, this 6 kicks so much. Go shoot a 308 and like, no, my 6 doesn't kick at all. My 6 is like a 22.
So it desensitizes you to the recoil.
Yes.
Yeah. And you find that really effective?
I do. Because I think if you can control a 308 or a heavier caliber, then you're not going to have any problem with competition caliber, something that's lighter weight. I don't think I'm the only one that does that though, because I think I heard that Jake Bibbert used to do that too. I don't know if he still does, but I thought it was a brilliant idea, and then I found out like 4 or 5 other people were doing it. It's like, well, sorry, I gave away your secret.
You're working towards superhuman status. Is that the goal?
Man, wouldn't that be a cool goal? That would be a cool goal.
Wouldn't be.
Not quite there yet.
Something to tick off.
Somebody gave me a Wonder Woman thing a few years ago, and I thought it was really cool, and I posted it up, and from there the Wonder Woman thing kicked off. But I am not a superhero, or superhuman or anything like that. I'm still trying to crack the top 5 again. So
have you ever worn a cape to a match?
I should, but I haven't. No.
Okay, I think that's your next step. That's where you're going wrong.
That's where I'm slacking.
I can't wait to see those photos.
I might just do it, but it might be sometime in October.
I can wait.
Like around Halloween.
I can wait. That's all right. Very good. I imagine a lot of people are listening to your advice and trying to take on what they can from this chat so far. Is there anything you sort of really suggest if they're going to go shoot their first 2-day match and really haven't done a lot previous?
I would say listen more than you speak. Think about what kind of questions you actually have. Write them down and find the person that looks like they actually know what they're doing and watch what they're doing. Take notes on that, and then ask them the questions that you've been tracking down this whole time. So I think people tend to talk more than they actually listen, and you can learn a whole bunch just by shutting up. The first few matches I went to, I was real quiet because I didn't know how to read wind. I didn't have any idea even where to start with wind, and nobody was really paying attention to me. I got all their wind calls because I shut up. And there's a lot to be said for just paying attention. And you'll notice if something looks like that's not going to work, and then the person shoots it and it does. But if that wasn't your original plan, then don't do it. Write it down, save it to practice when you get home. But if you come up with a plan, stick with it. Don't change just because somebody else hit a lot of targets with it, because people do that a lot too, and that never works the way that you think it's going to. It's more like Wile E. Coyote chasing the Roadrunner. Never goes as expected.
And if all else fails, wear a cape.
Yes, wear a cape. Indeed.
We'll see if anyone does, actually. I'll send you photos if they do.
I hope somebody does. That would be awesome.
I really hope someone does as well, actually. I'm considering it. That's terrific. Regina, thank you very much for spending some time chatting away, and it's really good to get a picture of how things are over there and your journey and what advice you've given out. I think you're a really good role model for the sport, not just for the girls in the sport, but for everyone. The way you sort of handle yourself for matches from the one match I've seen, and also from the what people say about you is really positive, and it's wonderful to have people like you in this sport, and appreciate you sharing your knowledge and passing it on to our shooters over here that are listening, and hopefully it will help them with PRS matches wherever they are in the world.
Thanks, Rusty.
No problems at all. Thank you very much, and good luck for what is your next match?
I will be at the MPA MPA Spring Shootout.
Right.
This weekend.
All right.
Going into this weekend.
Well, if Paul Reed's there, look out, mate. You're in trouble. She's coming for you again. Thanks, Regina.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast. To continue the discussion, check out our Facebook page. And for more information, head to our website, www.precisionshootingpodcast.com.au. This episode was brought to you by Impact Dynamics, advanced training for the precision shooter.